And welcome to Sports on Tap. I'm your host, Rob Troutman. We have Ed Dick, Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy here with you tonight. And we're going to be going over the regional final game recaps. And we'll show you the matchups for the state semifinals coming up this week. And guys, you know, some surprising scores, I think, from this last week. Josh, you had a chance to be at the St. Edward Medina game. You were on the sidelines. I'm sure the atmosphere was electric there, especially, I saw the highlights, and you can see them too right here on YouTube. And you also could see them on our website, sportsontappodcast.com. But, Medina scoring first there, and the Medina fans are going absolutely crazy there. Good fouling for them, I thought, in the playoffs. And St. Ed's, obviously, they're going to travel well. So how was, in Region 1, Division 1, how was that game from the sidelines?
Well, to begin the game, everything you would expect from a Division 1, Region 1 regional final game between the top two teams, in the region. It was a packed house, Byers Field. It was cold, and I think that had a lot to do with the game, even though the players for Medina would not say so, but this game was awesome to be on that sideline. But after that initial touchdown on the opening drive by the Bees, it was all Eds from there. As Eds went on to a 41-6 victory, and on that ensuing kickoff after that drive, it might have been a sign of things to come because Joel Castleberry of the St. Edward Eagles, he returned that kickoff 72 yards, and then the Eagles were off and running by there. They were led by Danny Inovich, the running back in this game. He totaled 21 carries, 161 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He did have a long run of 41 yards. He averaged over 7.5 yards per carry. And then Christian Ramos for Eds, just a heck of an athlete. Not only can he throw the ball, but he can also run really well. He did have 200 yards passing. He was 11 of 22 for 200 yards. He did have 3 touchdowns. Leading the way for St. Edward receiving was Ryan Miklick. He had only 3 receptions for 124 yards, but he did have 3 touchdown receptions. So where St. Edward's really flexed their muscle was on the defensive end. From my vantage point, it seemed like they dropped 8 in the box, and St. Ed's has a bunch of fast athletes in the secondary and in the linebacking corps, so that really gave Penn State commit Drew Allard a lot of headache. He passed the ball. Make sure I get these stats right. He passed the ball in this game 62 times, but only completed 27 of those attempts. He did have 299 yards. And a touchdown, but he did have 2 interceptions in this one, and both were by Carlton Landingham II. He both made good plays on there. So, and going back to my original thought where the cold weather played into this game, it was really cold, and that football was hard and slippery. And a lot of times the Medina Bees receivers had trouble. If they did get their hands on the ball, did have trouble catching that ball. But give credit to the Eagles defense. St. Ed's, they came out, they had a plan. I don't think Medina has seen a team thus far this season with the type of speed that Eds has in the secondary. And those receivers were able to stay those defensive backs were able to stay with those receivers all game. And also give credit to the Eds defensive line. A lot of times they only rushed 3 and 4, but they were still able to get to Allard. He was very frustrated all night after that first initial touchdown drive they had. Medina all year, they've just relied on that passing game. They really didn't need the running game, and that paid dividends in this game. They did not have any semblance of a running game, and that really hurt them in this one. But we covered Medina all year, and they had one heck of a season. And I stuck around after the game. Just I wanted to hear what the coaches had to say to the players, because they did that right on the one end zone of the field, and the same message was with all of the coaches was, be proud of what you guys did. They set the standard, building on what they did last year, but they set the standard, especially the seniors, for what, the Medina football program could be and will be here in the near future. Will they take a step back without, the likes of Drew Allard? That remains to be seen, but you got to give them credit for what they accomplished this year, but they just ran into a far superior team in St. Ed's, and they deserve to be the top seed in this region.
Josh, I do. We talked about Medina's defense and how underrated that has been all season. What did St. Ed's do offensively that gave Medina fits on the defensive end?
I think they were very, focused on their blocks, and Medina, the defense has, like you said, they were solid, but they just gave up too many big plays. We talked about for Ryan Miklick, the receiver for Eds. He had 3 receptions, but they were 3 touchdown receptions, and those were long receptions. He averaged, let me get this right, he averaged 41 yards per reception. So his touchdown receptions were long. And going back to Danny Inovich, he was running the ball real hard. On total, St. Ed's had 291 yards of rushing in this game. So, kind of going into this game, Ed's had this game circled because, Medina did beat them last year. We talked about that last week. So Ed's came out focused. They have a lot of good football players. This might be one of Ed's best team in a number of years, by the way they were playing and how they played this year. So there's nothing more you could say about it. Just they were the better team than Medina.
And let's since we have a little bit of an abbreviated show today, we'll just go right and I'll share my screen real quick. We can go back and forth with Sean. Let's find out who St. Ed's is taking on next week. They will be taking on the Division I, Region 3 champion, Upper Arlington. Will come into this game 14-0. That game will be played at Arlen Field in Mansfield, Ohio, also known as. That's actually a great place to play. Coached there a couple times. It's pretty solid there. Upper Arlington was successful in their championship game against Pickerington Central. That was a 3 overtime affair. 21-14, they get Pickerington Central. That earns them a date with St. Ed's. And then we see the Region 2 champion, the Springfield Wildcats, are 12-1. They picked up a victory over Marysville, 27-0. In their game, they will take on the Region 4 champion, Cincinnati Archbishop Moeller, which is one of the most historic programs in the state. They were a 21-17 victor over Lakota West to win Region 4. So Springfield versus Moeller, that game will be played at Sidney Memorial Stadium in Sidney, Ohio. These games will be played on Friday nights. Oh, sorry, I thought Sean was talking. So that's what Division I is shaping up right now. Josh, being that they had the last team remaining here, you did mention that St. Ed, this could be St. Ed's year. Any other quick thoughts about this one?
Yeah, Ed's got a tough game coming up this week, but if they go ahead and move on, and they go ahead and Moeller wins too, this is going to be a rematch from October 16th of this past year, where Moeller and Ed's did play, and Moeller actually came away with a 28-21 overtime victory. So Ed's may have, if they get past this week, they may have another game circled for them if Moeller makes it. So, I'm kind of hoping those two teams do meet up again, because that'll be a great state championship game for sure.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's shift over to Division II, Region 6, that championship game. Avon. Looks like we're gonna. Sorry. We'll go to Division II, Region 5. And we had Archbishop Hoban, the number 3 seed, the defending undisputed Division II champions. They took on WALSH JESUIT, the number 5 seed. This was a rematch of a previously played game that Hoban was able to win in, I believe, in double overtime. Hoban gets the victory, 49-30 here, and they have just proven that you have to beat them. Like even with graduating Shane Ham and a lot of starters on the defensive end, that their new quarterback is a transfer from Massillon, so he's been in some big games, and they just keep winning. Walsh Jesuit gave it a good run against them, but as we've talked about here, the road to Division II, until it doesn't, it always runs through Archbishop Hoban. There's really nothing more. There really isn't much more to say about this. Sean, being that you were probably more represented in Division II, Region 5 than the rest of us. Real quick, what were your thoughts about that game?
This was a tough one for me to call and really kind of see where it at, because as you mentioned earlier in the season, these two went to double overtime and Hoban got the win there. I thought it'd be a little bit closer than it actually was. I mean, again, 19-point spread at the end here. Not a terribly bad call, not a terribly bad game, not a blowout by any means whatsoever. Walsh Jesuit's been hanging in there. But you're right, Ed. I mean, it's Hoban's division until they're beaten. And, rinse, repeat. Archbishop Hoban's in the state semifinals. They're a regional champion. I mean, this is not something that's new to them. It's becoming old hat. And, hats off to the coaching staff there at Hoban. They've got themselves a dynasty, and they've got themselves a really top-tier program in Division II. But, again, nothing's – and I'm sure they'll be the first ones to tell you that nothing's set in stone yet. You still got to win 2 games to bring this thing home. Hoban's just playing their best football right now. And you could say that about any team in the state semifinals right now. But Hoban's a scary team. And when we get to Division II, Region 6, that's who their opponent's going to be. And they have a very, very tough, tall task ahead of them. Because Archbishop Hoban, this is not new territory for them. This is not something that they're unfamiliar with. They're not in too deep a water. This is their part of their season. And it's been that way for the last 3-4 years. And that's really impressive from this particular program.
Now let's shift over to Division II, Region 6. Rob had this game as part of his coverage area. Avon, the number 2 seed, they took on the Toledo Central Catholic Fighting Irish, who was the number 4 seed. And what a game this was.
Yeah, I mean, this game went back and forth. Avon actually started off 14-0 in the game. They had Ethan Holbrook with a 1-yard run. Gavin Earhart, he had a 7-yard run. So they were up 14-0 early, but you knew Toledo Central Catholic wasn't going to go down without a fight. Sam Lee, he had a 3-yard pass from Tywan Clark for Toledo Central Catholic. So that cut the lead to 14-7. But Avon, Sam DiTilio, the quarterback there at Avon, had a 1-yard run. It was 21-7. And then all of a sudden, Chris Edmonds for Toledo Central Catholic, the Irish, really got started. And Edmonds, he led all rushers. He had 37 carries for 288 yards. And to get them back in the game, he had 2 touchdowns after the DiTilio run to tie the game. He had a 24-yard run and a 7-yard run. He had 3 touchdowns on the night. But really looking at the statistics here, total offense, 522 yards of total offense for the Irish, 516 for Avon. Yards rushing, 317 for the Irish, 301 for Avon. Yards passing, Avon has the edge of 215 to 205. But what a game, back and forth, and eventually you knew the last person or the last team to score might win this game, and it went to overtime. And Coach Elder, took a pretty big risk here. Instead of kicking a field goal, he went for 2, and Ethan Holbrook on a reverse got into the end zone and scored a touchdown to give Avon a 43-42 win in overtime. I mean, what a sensational game. Jacorian Caffey, the sophomore running back, we had him as a guest here on Sports on Tap. He had 20 rushes, 166 yards in the game. Sam DiTilio, he had 89 yards rushing for Avon. And then, you look at passing-wise, 205 yards by Clark for the Irish, and then Sam DiTilio had 215 yards. But, I mean, give credit, really, both teams going back and forth. Both deserved to win this game. I mean, they were so close and equal. I mean, offensively, defensively, obviously with the score being 43-42, the defense had a tough time scoring these offenses here. But What a game, especially when it comes down, Coach Elder going for two there. I mean, he obviously had a good sense of his team. He always has. And just a sensational game and again, they're back in the state semifinal game. And I'm sure you'll have the screen of who they're going to be playing as you kind of went through it again. And these teams have racked horns for a few times now as they're going to go against Akron, Archbishop Hope, and there it is, 11-3, and Avon, the number 2 seed, Archbishop Hope, and the number 3 seed, Avon, 12-2, and it's at Byers Field in Parma. And I'm going to guarantee this stadium is going to be rocking. It's going to be absolutely packed at Byers Field, and Josh was just at Byers Field. It's a fun place to watch a football game. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and one quick note, Rob, that you said, and you can't say it enough. How Coach Elder, really went for that 2-point conversion. He has one of the best kickers in Northeast Ohio, Nathaniel Vakos, that Mr. Automatic, but he went for it, and you got to give him credit for that. Not a lot of coaches would do that, especially in that specific time and space. So just a great job by them. You'd like to see that.
And how about the play call, though, a reverse?
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's a play that, takes some time to develop, and it could blow up in your face pretty quick. We've seen it at the college level, the pro level, and it not work. In high school, though, when you have as good athletes as Avon has, Ethan Holbrook made it work, and the offensive line did a great job blocking. Same with Sam DiTilio, and you very easily could have went with Jacorian Caffey, who, put up some monster numbers. Only a sophomore. I mean, he really had an amazing season so far this year, and he has stepped up for the Avon Eagles, giving them, that balance in the rushing game.
From all accounts, it just seemed like, and I'm not going to speak for Coach Elder and his mindset, but you have to realize calling that play at that particular time frame, there must have been some indication that they were really maybe keying on Jacorian Caffey and realizing that if they got the defense going that way, he could maybe exploit that. And he did, and it worked out tremendously for Avon. And, congratulations to them. I believe this is their second straight regional final, if I'm not mistaken, that they've taken in Division II, Region 6. And, again, as I mentioned with Archbishop Hoban, I think Avon's the same way. This is not new territory for them. The spotlight is not too bright on Avon. I think, both these teams, it's a very workmanlike mentality. It's a business trip. And I think if I'm looking at these two games, and Ed did a great job of breaking down what Division II looks like from a Final Four standpoint, this Region 5, Region 6 matchup, I think is probably, I would not be shocked if the winner of this came out with a state title, to be 100% honest with you, because I don't know much about Green. I don't know a lot about Winton Woods and Cincinnati, but I got to say, after watching, following Archbishop Hoban and our coverage of Avon this year, these two teams are really kind of hitting on all cylinders, and I think we're, setting up for a real good game Friday night, and I think the winner of that goes a long way in securing the state title.
And Sean, to your point, Avon this is the 5th consecutive regional championship that Avon has won, and this will be the 4th time out of 5 years that they will play Hoban. And they have not been successful in defeating Hoban. The outlier was a game against Massillon, Washington, a few years back, which Massillon also won. And Rob, real quick, what do you think? What do you think will be the difference this time around when Hoban and Avon lock horns? What do you think Avon can do or needs to do in order to finally topple Hoban?
They need to make DiTilio comfortable in the pocket and obviously have a solid running game. I mean, because you can tell when they have a balanced attack and when they can rush the football, they're a dangerous offense that can put up a ton of points. But if it's Archbishop Hoban, if they can stop that running game and make it kind of a pass game, DiTilio is a really good passer too. But I think it limits them a little bit because then all of a sudden You're stopping the run. If you can contain their vertical game, maybe you take something away from that offense and make him be accurate. We know Archbishop Hoban is going to be watching a ton of film, and I think they're dangerous all over. They've had such a solid season. Yeah, they have 3 losses, but they've played a lot of tough teams this season, and now especially, I mean, they got a big win versus Walsh, who was kind of going off of a little bit of a hot streak there. They've always had Avon's number. I can't wait to see the game plan that Coach Elder's going to come up with here, because right now he has a really talented team, and their 2 losses came in the beginning of the season, and since then they've been absolutely dominant. And other than this last week where they took it to overtime, but they've been dominant thus far, other than their last game. So we'll see what Archbishop Hoban's going to do defensively to really contain an Avon offense who's been putting up a lot of points so far in the playoffs.
I think a big key, Rob, to kind of go off of what you just said with all these teams is, all these teams have played pretty flawlessly, give or take a few plays here and there. I think it's going to be, for Avon, the key is going to be not giving Hoban extra opportunities to score by turning the ball over, and also maybe forcing Archbishop Hoban to make some key mistakes. Obviously it's easier said than done, but again, we see it countless times every year around this time in these particular games. Is it all comes down to a fumble or a missed kick or an interception that goes a long way in changing the outcome of the game. And I think if Avon can limit any mistakes that they made, because they were prone to those mistakes very early on in the season, they cleaned that up as they've gone on this streak here. But they have to be cognizant of the fact that you got to hang with Hoban all the way through and be there at the end with a chance to win. And you cannot allow them to get extra opportunities to score points to pile up, because it can very easily turn into a runaway with a team like Hoban and how quickly they can score and score in bunches.
Well, and I think you made a great point with the turnovers. Also, in the Toledo Central Catholic, with playing the Irish, Avon had 12 penalties for 115 yards in that game. That was a pretty big number. I thought that Coach Elder would like to get cleaned up and not give 115 yards to Archbishop Hoban, because if that's the case, they're going to take advantage and go right down the field. Toledo Central Catholic too, they had 3 fumbles and they lost 2 of those. Avon only had 1. So they did limit the turnovers. They didn't have any interceptions, did Avon. But when you look at penalties, I think that's what kind of gave Toledo Central Catholic some good field position in this game to put up the amount of points they did. And that's got to get cleaned up, because Hoban's going to go right down. If you're going to force all those penalties of 115 yards to them, I think that's going to be a key stat to watch. And give credit, the Irish, they had 9 penalties for 69 yards. So that wasn't amazing either, but 115 yards is quite a bit. And for really good teams right now, you have to get that cleaned up. And like you said, the turnover margin, you can't turn the ball over and give good teams second chances and good field position. So that'll be something to watch at Byers Field this weekend or week.
The other matchup will be the Region 7 champion, the number 7 seed, the Uniontown Green Bulldogs. The number 7 seed, 11-3, they will take on the Region 8 champion, the Cincinnati Winton Woods Warriors. They also come to this game as the 7 seed, also 11-3. Green had to kind of coming through in a way that is almost like a Cinderella type. They defeated Marion Harding. They beat Hoover in a rematch. Worcester, to their credit, they were the number 14 seed. They won 2 games in the playoffs. And Green was able to squeak by them before they took out Massillon. So Green is definitely battle tested in this round. Cincinnati Winton Woods, I have seen them play. Mind you, this was a long time ago when Coach Hunick was at Maple Heights. And this is a very, very good team. They're fast, they're big. They run if they still run the same offense, it's pretty much a triple option offense. They run it down your throat, and they're able to they have enough speed to be able to catch you from behind as well. So I think this is going to be a very tough matchup for Green. They've done tremendous so far. Winton Woods, they did beat Piqua 38-17 to win Division 2 Region 8. So that game will take place at Westerville Central High School in Westerville, Ohio. All right, let's shift over to Division 3. The Division 3 Region 9 championship was played between the number 1 seed, the reigning, defending, undisputed Division 3 champion, the Chardon Hilltoppers, against the number 2 seed, the Dover Tornadoes. And hard to be surprised by this result. Chardon rolls 31-3 over Dover, and they will extend their undefeated streak. They are 14-0, and they will play the winner of my game, Division 2 or Division 3 Region 10, the Holy Name Green Wave, the number 8 seed against Millersburg West Holmes, which was previously undefeated coming into this game. And as you can see, the Namers were not able to get it done. 31-21 victory for West Holmes over Holy Name. For Holy Name, it was Javon Williams. He was a guest on our show last week. He had 13 rushes for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns. Christian Sanchez had 14 rushes for 98 yards and a touchdown. Unfortunately, for Holy Name, they weren't able to get out of their own way, and they weren't able to execute when they needed to. Holy Name turned the ball over twice on downs in the 4th quarter. They also threw an interception. And then after West Holmes had tied the score earlier in the game, they fumbled the kickoff, and that led to another West Holmes score. And the Cinderella or the feel-good story for Holy Name unfortunately ends at this round again. Last year they lost to Tiffin Columbian 17-14. This year they lose to Millersburg West Holmes 31-21. For West Holmes, sophomore Sam Williams Dixon had 28 rushes for 152 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had a receiving touchdown. In the process, he broke the school record for most single-season touchdowns as a sophomore. So this dude's going to be around for quite a while. Noah Clark for West Holmes had completed 14-20 passing for 160 yards and a touchdown. West Holmes led at the half, 24-14. Holy Name was able to get to as close as 24-21, but unfortunately for Coach Wondolowski, the Green Wave were not able to capitalize. Holy Name finishes 7-6. They are a regional finalist for the 2nd straight year. West Holmes improves to 14-0. They will play the defending Division 3 state champion Chardon Hilltoppers. That game will be played at Twinsburg High School. One more note about Holy Name. Holy Name is they're still young. Javon Williams and Christian Sanchez, amongst some of the other players, they're juniors. And now they have 2 years worth of regional finals experience. And, if everything goes well for them and they stay healthy and there really isn't anything unforeseen, it would not shock me if they find themselves in another regional championship next year. Maybe it's a little bit of a higher seed. I mean, quite honestly, once you get to the regional championship, you're probably going to end up playing a team like West Holmes, a number 2 or 3 or 4 seed. Holy Name did some work this year, and great job by Coach Wondolowski, by Javon Williams, Eric Jones, Christian Sanchez, and a litany of other Holy Name Green Wave players. It was awesome covering you guys this year. Congratulations on a great season. For Division 3, we'll take a quick look at their schedule for the Final Four. As we just mentioned, Chardon is 14-0. They will take on Millersburg West Holmes, also 14-0. That game will be played at Twinsburg Tiger Stadium. In the other matchup, it will be the number 1 seed from the Region 11, Granville. The Blue Aces were a 57-49 victor over Western Brown to win Division 3 Region 11. They will take on the Region 12 champion, Hamilton Baden. They will take on the Rams. They were a 21-10 12-9 victor over Bellbrook. That game will be played at Bolus Field in London, Ohio. These games will be played on Friday night. I'll provide some brief analysis here. Quite honestly, I don't know too much about Granville or Hamilton-Baden. I do know a lot about Chardon, and they've run roughshod over this division for the last 24 some months. And West Holmes is not going to, they're going to give him a game. I have no doubt about that. Sam Williams-Dixon is a special player, and Chardon's really going to have to contain him and get in Noah Clark's face a little bit. 14 and 20, 70% completion percentage. That's pretty good for high school level. And we'll see if Millsburg West Holmes can keep up with that patented offense that Chardon runs. The thing that's interesting about this is that there are no losses between any of these teams. So all these teams know how to win. So we're going to see some ones pop up here shortly in Division 3. So this was this is a good division. I feel we had a lot of good teams in this division between Aurora. They made a pretty good run in Division 3, Region 9. Buckeye, Rocky River, Bay. I think Copley's in Division 3, if I'm not mistaken. So, or Division 2. They're Division 2. Sorry. So, just a lot of good teams here from the GLC side, and as well as the rest of the coverage network. So this will be a good Final Four. I look for Chardon to win until someone stops them, just like with Hoban. And then the last game is part of our coverage unit, our coverage area. It was Division 5, Region 18. Elyria Catholic took on Ottawa Glandorf, and unfortunately for the Panthers, their run comes to an end. 31-6. Ottawa Glandorf takes out Elyria Catholic. To start the game, Glandorf had a 7+ minute drive that they ran off the clock that resulted into a touchdown. They also forced 2 fumbles in the first half that directly led to 10 more points. Unfortunately for Elyria Catholic, they were down 24-0 at the half, and they could not recover. The Panthers were held to 185 total yards, something that we're not used to seeing from them. They had 5 turnovers. Unfortunately, they threw 3 interceptions and had 2 fumbles. They were able to turn over out of Glandorf a couple times, but were not able to fully take advantage of it. And their season comes to an end. First time they've been in the regional championship since 1987. A team like Ottawa Glandorf does have experience this late in the playoffs. I believe as recent as 2019, they've made it this far. So it was a school that, maybe on paper they didn't have the best of resumes, especially compared to Elyria Catholic with the teams that they play. But Glandorf has the experience, and they have the pedigree as far as the Division 5 playoffs are concerned. This is the first time in 2 years Elyria Catholic has lost in the playoffs. They were not eliminated last year on the field, as I've harped on pretty much the entire playoffs here. For Elyria Catholic, Levi Ellis, 8 rushes, 44 yards. Recent guest, Tavion Thomas, had 5 rushes for 8 yards. Quarterback Brady Cook was 8 of 16 passing. He had a rushing touchdown. Jack Canale closes his career with 3 catches and 36 yards. He will be headed to Youngstown State next year. For Ottawa Glandorf, Landon Jordan, their quarterback, had 11 of 22 passing for 192 yards, 3 touchdowns. Caleb Coleman, 5 catches, 82 yards, and Ian Fenberg, 23 rushes, 84 yards and a touchdown. Unfortunately, their season ends at 11-3. Ottawa Glandorf improves to 11-3. They will take on the defending Division 5 champion, the Kirtland Hornets. But that game will be played next week at Clyde High School. Very familiar territory to Glandorf because they just played there this past week. So they will be very familiar with the venue. However, Coach Tiger Laverty will not be intimidated. Neither will his Hornets. They are just about as dynastic as Hoban is at this point with how many state championships they have won in recent years. With Elyria Catholic, similar story to Holy Name. A lot of their stud players, or a couple of stud players, they're juniors. Levi Ellis and Tavion Thomas are both juniors. They're both going to come back next year better than ever. You do graduate Jack Canale. He has been a major contributor the last couple of years. So you'll miss a threat like that, but with two running backs and defenders like Levi Ellis and Tavion Thomas, you can build your team around them. And I have no doubt that that Coach Fox will plan on doing that in the coming year. We'll quickly recap Division 5. As we mentioned, Ottawa GLANDORF will take on Kirtland. Kirtland was I believe, a 38-17 victor over South Range. I will confirm that right now. 38-15. My apologies. So Kirtland runs wild and continues their streak. The other matchup, we'll see Division 5 Region 19 champion, the number 2 seed, Canal Winchester Harvest Prep. The Warriors were a 20-17 victor over Wheelersburg last week. They will take on the Region 20 champion, the number 5 seed, that being Versailles. The Tigers, they were a 28-0 victor over Preble Shawnee last week. So this could shape up to be a pretty high-scoring game. That game will also be played at Bolus Field in London, Ohio, as their games are played on Saturdays. For Division 5, it's going to be the same story for me as it is for Division 2 and Division 3. The road runs through Kirtland, and until someone beats them, I'm picking them to win the state championship until someone beats them. And that's about all the analysis I could probably give on Division 5 right there.
Right, and just a quick note too, because Kirtland is out of our coverage area. We don't really talk too much about them, but they deserve to be talked about because they're, I believe, on a 54-55 game winning streak. They've won 4 straight state titles, and they've also won 6 state championships out of the last 10 years. So just what they're doing in Kirtland is unbelievable. So much deserved credit, and obviously we don't really talk about them on our show. They're kind of out of our coverage area, but in this aspect, they really deserve to be mentioned. So looking forward to seeing how they advance. And I agree with you, Ed. It's their championship until it's not.
I will point out, Ed, not to be a nitpicker, but since I grew up in that area, it's pronounced Versailles. I know it sounds like Versailles.
Sales, okay.
Versailles. And yeah, I agree with you, Ed. I think Kirtland is probably the class of this division, and they've been so for 54 games and 5 straight championships or whatever it is. So, I think Kirtland is just they are what they are. They are the St. Ed's or the parochial school of the Division 5 of Division 5. And hopefully maybe Ottawa GLANDORF found a little something. I think the way it was described, the way you broke it down, it sounded like Elyria Catholic had their chances but couldn't capitalize, and maybe just allowed Ottawa GLANDORF to kind of settle into a rhythm, and that's a tough thing to overcome. But as you mentioned with Avon against Hoban or any of these teams, is you got to execute. This is not, the margin for error is so small right now. These teams are too evenly matched. You're not, you can't come back and give really good teams extra opportunities. And also, you have to be able to convert when you've taken away the ball or when you have those opportunities. If you don't put points on the board, when you get a turnover in a playoff situation, that's a recipe for a disaster. And any coach will tell you that. You have to convert. You have to make teams pay for making mistakes. And if you can't do that, you're the one that's ended up sitting home the next week and the other team moves on. And that's unfortunately what happened to Elyria Catholic. But hats off to Elyria Catholic and Holy Name. They had a great season overall. Like you said, they're younger. So, they got that hunger coming back. They got a lot of stars coming back. I look for Elyria Catholic to continue their role in the GLC. I mean, probably one of the top tier teams in the GLC, and along with Holy Name and some of the other, and Rocky River and things like that you can see those teams kind of separating themselves a little bit along with Buckeye. But there's a couple dark horses too. We just don't know what the next season is going to bring. But unfortunately, the 2021 season has come to an end for Elyria Catholic and Holy Name, and now we are on to following teams we only, outside of Avon, we only peripherally understand, tertiary understand, because they're out of our coverage area. But all the luck to the local teams in the area as they prepare for the state semifinals. Anything else?
Nicely done. No,
Yeah.
great job all around. I mean, especially with going through, like you said, some teams that we don't necessarily cover all the time. We know how good they are. It's going to be an interesting playoff. Especially Leary Catholic, like you said, they're a young team. The Great Lakes Conference, I feel like they've really established some programs. Rocky River's been there, Leary Catholic. Coach Fox has done a great job there, really getting that culture back because they had a down year, but usually they're up at the top, and you could tell them starting to establish just impressive cultures at these places, and I think we're going to see it. Look at Avon. Avon's been there each year. Can they get over the hump? Congratulations to them and Coach Elder. What another great season. It's easy to say early on, they lost Avon Lake, they lost to Medina, and it's easy just to fold and just go downhill. But this team, they actually got better and better as the season went along. It's been a blast, especially Suburban League. Give teams their credit; they've played well. But we've had a lot of good teams make it far, and it's sad when it comes to an end. But at some point, it has to come to an end, whether you're winning a championship or you're out of the playoffs. But it's been a fun year so far, and good luck to all the teams that have made it to the state semifinals. I mean, that's something to be proud of, and even this far in the playoffs, even the regional finals. I mean, that's pretty impressive. So congratulations to all those teams and on great seasons that now are no longer in the playoffs, but nothing to hold your head about. They'll be back next year, and it's probably another incentive. You make it that far, and you're going to be in the weight room working harder, studying film harder, and hopefully making it farther next year.
Yeah, and I'll kind of add to that. Good luck to all the teams, but we're really rooting for Avon because that's our last team in our coverage area. So go Avon Eagles! You got four number one fans here right now rooting for you to continue on to a state championship run, hopefully.
That's right. And great job, Coach Elder and that team. Yep. Hopefully they'll soar to a win here in the state semifinals and finally get.
Let's go Ginger Angels.
That's right, Sean. Sean, Did they officially say you're part of that?
No, but given our track record with teams that are in the playoffs, it's no wonder they declined our offer to come on the show tonight.
I know. Well, you know what? Maybe that's good luck then. We'll see.
They got business to handle, man. They got Hoban. That's a tough team. So
hey, let's set the record straight. They didn't deny coming on the show tonight. They have practice right now. They are currently practicing under the lights.
We're talking about practice, son. Practice.
Yep. Yeah.
They got to. Hey, they got to.
I mean, I think
are no joke.
Practice and preparing for a state semifinal game is a little more important than a Sports on Tap, playoff show here. But I mean, we are very important, but just saying.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
Well, guys, anything else you want to touch on here tonight? I mean, we went through and Ed, great job once again with breaking down each region and division and, setting it up. So hopefully everyone out there, if you want to go to some games, check out our live stream here. You can go back. This will be archived on our YouTube page where you can go back and watch it. And also you want to watch some interviews of the players and coaches we've had on from this season. Go back and check out. There's our videos with highlights, but then there's also our live streams that are all archived on our YouTube page. So you can go back and watch all of those videos of a lot of student athletes we had this year and some great interviews. I mean, we had one kid tell us he's the best dancer on the team. We had some interesting things. We had two brothers on, the Devons brothers on.
Yeah.
They
shared one screen, which is good. Doesn't always happen with brothers now. It doesn't always happen with brothers.
No, I mean, I'm surprised.
They shared the screen very well.
That's right. That they've been taught to share, which is always a good thing.
Well,
you know what?
I'll just say that, talking about those player interviews that we did, that was probably the best part of this season for me personally, and I could probably speak for you guys as well, because we got to talk to some of the best players in our area of the state, and just to see where their frame of mind is. I mean, it's hard to forget that these are actually just kids, high school kids, but they're playing this game of football and they're taking it seriously. And these kids are competitors, and just to hear them talk and hear about their preparation for each game and how the preparation goes for the off season, it's awesome to hear that, and we look forward to not only continuing that this year, but continuing that next football season as well.
And I'll say this: just because we're kind of closing the book on football, doesn't mean Sports on Tap's going away. It doesn't. We still have Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League coming up. And you know what? If you didn't have a chance to join us for our 3 preview shows previewing the red, the white, and the blue divisions, guess what? Like Rob just said, they're archived on YouTube. So go on YouTube, subscribe, watch those shows, get geared up for high school hockey, because Sports on Tap is going to be your #1 source for Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League action all through the wintertime. Let's do it.
That's right. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it, and going to be live streaming some games and having broadcasts and having some fun with it. So we'll look forward to that. And like I said, it's been a blast with our high school football coverage, and we'll continue that until the championship games, which are coming close. So we'll see. Maybe we'll have some coaches on in the next week or two. Once we'll see how the season goes and who we can get, but maybe we'll have a few coaches on to talk a little bit about their season and playoffs and everything else. So stay tuned. Go to sportsontappodcast.com. Go to our Twitter @SOT Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook as well. But subscribe to us on YouTube. That's important to see all these videos and get the latest highlights where we're at, and also these shows. So guys, great job tonight, and we'll see you again Monday night at 7:30.
Yes, sounds good. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Enjoy your turkey day.
That's
Go
right.
Irish.
Gobble, gobble, gobble.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We'll talk to you later. For Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, I'm Rob Troutman. We will see you Monday night at 7:30. Enjoy the week. Have a great holiday, everyone.